Hey there, everybody. Welcome, Tribe. Dawna here from Transformational Healing. And today we are going to chat about boundaries. There are so many different ways to talk about boundaries, and I wanted to talk about those inside boundaries, those inside walls and limiting beliefs that we put on ourselves, and how self care can help us to take care of those issues, as well as the protections that we put up around our personal energy and perhaps around our houses, and different ways to deal with having healthy boundaries, because healthy boundaries are very, very important. So if you are here, make sure that you say hi and subscribe and like this video while you're at it. Sorry about that little bump. I see that Rachel is here. Hi, Rachel. I know that you were excited to chit chat about this topic. Um, I always like to start off our lives by just chit chatting a little bit about what we have for our tea and how we're taking this time for self care. I went for coffee again today. We have coffee, no tea, but curious as to what you guys are doing to take this as your self care and mindfulness time for the week, to set up your week in a positive way, to be in balance as we move forward. So, and I see that Terry is here. She's saying hi as well. So great to see you. Um, I know that you missed the last couple of weeks, so I'm excited that you are here to chat with us about healthy boundaries and setting up good energies around ourselves and inside ourselves to help us with our mental, emotional well being and our self care. So, Rachel says, I have some firefly chai. You love chai. What's in our firefly chai? So, I know that I've had some messages and phone calls this week, and we had a really great increasing your intuition and senses second class this week. Um, in the in-person class, I am still working on a structure to put out a video class for that, but I want it to be like, a year long or 6 months long. So I'm working on how to do all the short steps, so that you're only doing, instead of having a big lump of all this stuff that you need to do, just short little things that you would do each week to work on that and have live streams with me and figure out how often we need to do those and fit them in. So trying to work out all the details on that. If you guys have any suggestions for ways that you would like to learn about increasing your intuition and senses, like how much time you want to dedicate to it each week, or um, which ways help you to learn best, that sort of thing. It would be online, so it'd be video available for everyone to check in. You wouldn't necessarily have to stay with the group for the amount of time, but I think that I would do it time released for people to not overwhelm them. So, Terry is saying now that football season is over, she can focus on her self care again. But I think that for you, enjoying football was part of your self care. You make it a priority for you. So I can see that as well. Um, Rachel said it's the same basic spices, if I recall, but I think that it has rooibos, which gives us that reddish color. Yes. The rooibos tea, or the red tea, is also what's in my detox tea, that Rachel really likes as well. And she has also turned that into chai. Rachel said, I spent a lot of time this morning dusting shelves and filling a box of odds and ends for donation, trying to unclutter our house and shift the focus onto better overall wellness. One little step at a time. That is the way to go about that. So, when we talk about having healthy boundaries, inside of ourselves, sometimes we don't realize what those boundaries are. We don't realize that we've imposed all these limiting beliefs on ourselves, which are a type of boundary. And sometimes, because we set up walls and boxes and things like that inside ourselves, that can be healthy for a short period of time, but over a longer period of time, those walls kind of hold back those shadows. It's a way of the unconscious mind to protect our conscious mind of traumas that have happened, of things that we don't want to deal with, the things that we don't want to acknowledge. So we box them away or we put them away. And there are times when doing that can be a healthy response to not be overloaded, to not go into crisis mode. But when in the long term, it, I don't know how to, it becomes unhealthy because you're not dealing with those shadow aspects of yourself. It's holding you back from your spiritual growth. It's holding you back from being a full person because you're hiding all these parts and pieces of yourself and all these life experiences, good or bad, even sometimes from yourself. And you're repressing all of those things. And that can actually become an unhealthy response. So, the way that I often suggest to deal with those things is obviously through some type of therapy. So I highly suggest, therapy to those people that need it. And another way that we can deal with that is to do it through meditation or through shamanic healing work or through energy work. Because as we do energy work or energy healing, shamanic healing, Reiki, those sorts of things on ourselves, or go and have treatments done with people, it helps to break down those tiny little things and it helps to heal you and put your energy back together so that you're not blocking off all of your energy and your energy flows by holding on to all of these traumas and holding on to all of these things. And even though it hurts, we have to acknowledge, you don't have to re experience the situation, but you have to acknowledge what has occurred in order to release it, in order to say, I wouldn't be the person I am today if these traumas hadn't happened to me. Um, so I think that when it comes to those walls and things that we put up inside ourselves, we need to really do that dreaded shadow work and look inside. And if you're triggered or you have a catalyst in your life, then you're reacting in a way. If you can be mindful of that moment and you can say, wait, why I'm feeling this reaction? Why is this my reaction to this situation? Why do I instantly jump to this thing because this situation has happened right now in my life? And to look at what what helped you to create that, what in your childhood, what as you were growing up, what in your past life experiences made you instantly believe that thing or instantly have that reaction to shove that away and to just slowly look inside and to deal with that shadow so that you can move forward and incorporate that knowledge into your conscious mind and get it out of your subconscious, which is holding you back by it not being acknowledged by you. Now, you may acknowledge that trauma, but by not looking at, and say, this horrible thing happened to me when I was a kid or when I was a teenager, but you don't look into it deep enough to know that that is why you do XYZ every time this situation comes up. So it's being able to look a little bit deeper, looking able to just peel slowly, very slowly away those layers of the onion skin and to treat yourself with love and to love yourself for that situation and to love yourself for where you are at and how you're dealing with it and not be judgmental, because that's just another wall. That judgment is just another bad boundary, bad wall or filter that you're putting on yourself to limit yourself for where you're at. So let's see what's going on in the chat really quick. Terry says the basics ingredients in chai are so good for digestive health as well as immune system support. Absolutely, which is why I love them. Rachel's saying it's been really up and down for me this year, but I'm really trying to keep improving my wellness. And that has me realizing how little attention that I have been paying to not just me, but also my house. Um, I think that happens, that we we can create the routines that make us feel better sometimes, but we don't realize those little things that we're leaving off to the side. And for me, having uh, a partner who is also very much into having things neat and organized helps. Uh, and we can keep the house clean and keep the house feeling good, filling it with positive energy all the time. But even that, we're not pulling out the dressers and, washing walls and stuff like that all the time. But we tend to do it in the fall and in the spring. So we've started going through, we do rooms, like once a month, we'll get to each room as, for more of a deep clean. But we really, really deep clean in fall and spring, and also tend to get rid of a lot of stuff at that point in time. We have projects going on here as well for that. But when I'm more mindful and more in the groove of things, to pay attention to those things around me, it feels better when I can cleanse and cleanse that, as well as cleanse and clear myself. My tendency is to get sucked into work and to get sucked into creating things for all of you guys, and then not paying attention to the fact that, my workspace is getting a little bit dirty or cluttered. So I go through it, and I have a set, once a week, go through the workspace, dust everything off, cleanse everything, um, and reset. We have tons of organization for all of the different things that I've been collecting from estate sales and things like that. And we're really pushing, and that's why I started launching products every Friday. So it may seem like an overwhelm of new products, but you guys don't even want to know what is hiding in my basement as goodies for you, down in the warehouse section of where we keep everything. So I'm trying to get all of that organized, and it feels so good to finally be working on it, instead of looking at all these boxes of stuff going, oh, I have to sort through all that stuff. But I keep buying more because I know that I don't want those things to end up in the landfill, and I know that you guys will enjoy them. So yeah, just keeping up with all of that is, so I ignore things going on with me sometimes because I get sucked into work, or you look at overwhelm. And I think just being mindful of, why do I experience that overwhelm? It's because I don't like clutter. You know, um, I don't like holding on to stuff that you don't need at the same time. But I like to be creative, so I like to create things. It's a balance between that and where you're at. So I totally get you, Rachel. Totally understand where that's at. She's also saying that she realizes there's a lot of things that she's held on to. Oh, it's scrolling on me. But that I now feel I no longer need, and it feels really good to be letting things go. Oh yeah, definitely. Yesterday I went through my file drawers and organizing all of my files for clients and classes and things, and I was throwing out stuff from the Wellspring Center that I had opened in Connecticut, um, well over 19 years ago. It's really bad. I did keep some of the stuff so that I have it as reference stuff, just to make sure I can type it, or if it's not in the computer, I can type it back in the computer and make it with current things on it. And I had stuff from when I was working in Lee, and I just chucked piles of paper, just recycle. Tons of intake forms and things like that had wrong addresses on them and stuff. So yeah, it felt awesome to purge and to get everything reorganized. So I know right where everything is. It's been a great process for that. Um, Terry is saying so many beat ourselves up, and self judgment moments are imprinted in us at a young age from others. I absolutely agree with that. From our bio family, our teachers, society in general, self degradation becomes a comfortable habit for us. It absolutely does. But I think that it is so important to recognize that, and so important to um, look at where all those feelings and emotions come from so that we can be our best selves, so that we can be our highest selves and to move forward. And locally cultivated is here, and she 100% agrees with Terry's statement as well. Um, Terry says it can be an exercise in self care to turn those thoughts around, to cheerlead ourselves for what we have accomplished instead of beating ourselves up for what we didn't achieve. Oh, yes. So, multiple times this week, it has also come up to into conversations and things like that, that people, I really highly suggest you to keep a spiritual journal. um, I don't necessarily mean a diary where you're writing down every little thing that happened during the day, but to acknowledge those things that come up and to write your feelings and your emotions down, write down what you're dealing with it, put in your meditations and your divinations and your spiritual things and all of those synchronicities that come up. And when, if an issue comes up and a trauma comes up and this is how you've dealt with it, journal about that. And then maybe it comes back up again, because that's what happens as we process through those layers of onion skins again 3 or 4 weeks later, and you journal about it then. And then you can realize that you recognized it faster for what it was. You dealt with it in a more healthy way. You are growing, and you can see over time that it comes up less and less often. And every time it does come up, you deal with it better and better and better. And you can look at what things are working to deal with that issue, what things you're growing with, what things didn't work to deal with that issue. It can help to point out your instant reactions and maybe even other things that you didn't recognize. And every time you write in that journal and keep all those spiritual thoughts and things in your journal as you deal with them through shamanic journey work and meditations and things like that, that how much you've grown. And I've seen some of my students and some of my clients and friends that have been having all these issues coming up over the last, year or even longer than that with COVID, but specifically over the last several months. And I'm seeing growth in weeks, and they don't recognize it because they're not writing it down. They're not putting in their journal. So I've been trying to push several of you guys to keep journals and to write those things down, because I can be a mirror for you as you guys are mirrors for me, to see where that growth is and to ask that little questions that prompt you to see where your own growth is instead of me pointing out where the growth is, and make you recognize that. But going back and rereading your journals can also be that mirror for you in growth. I know that it has helped me over the last 30 years of journaling and looking at things. I go back and I read things actually to come up with videos for helping people that are new to the path and helping people, um, all of you guys, around different aspects of growth. And I go back and I read my journals to see what I was really experiencing at that time, to be able to put myself back in that frame of mind, or to see where that frame of mind was for me when I was first experiencing those things and how I overcame it, so that I can help all of you guys to overcome it too. So I think that that's important for your own growth, but also as you help others, you grow even more. And I have grown so much from my students. It's unbelievable. Um, Terry says, sometimes I like to binge watch Hoarders. Oh, yeah. While I clean and sort and organize, it helps me feel positive about my own housekeeping skills. It really does, doesn't it? Um, Rachel is saying, Terry, I have been really working on rewording my thoughts. It's frightening how often I think or I talk or I think negatively to myself. And I think that we all do that. And it is really, really important to look at that and say, well, wait, why do I think that? And delve deeper into it and figure out where that came from. And then you can really change why you're doing it and why you're judging yourself from that point. Um, I see that there's lots of other people that have popped in, so make sure that you guys comment in the chat. Let us know that you're here, join into the conversation, that sort of thing. And like the video and subscribe if you're new. But I want to keep going about our inward boundaries, those things that we, need to work on in ourselves. Terry's saying, that she agrees with Rachel, saying oftentimes we don't realize how much we do it until we start tracking it. Journal. And that those voices don't even belong to us. Just because someone once told us XYZ does not make it true. Absolutely. And I think that when we're young and impressionable, we do integrate those things into our being and don't even realize it. I know that I tried really hard when my kids were young to never tell them to stop talking to their imaginary friends. Those sorts of things, because that was embedded in me. So when I was seeing things or hearing things that weren't there, working on increasing those senses, I had this block of it's not there, you're just making this up. And because that was embedded in me in my childhood, to stop looking at those things, to stop experiencing those things. So it takes a long time to get that back. And I try not to pass that on through generations as we grow. Rachel saying, speaking of journaling, as I was cleaning up last night, I found the Healing Path self-care sheets that I printed out and had set aside while I looked for a binder. Whoops. Yes, that. Get those in a binder and start using them. Make copies of them for yourself. If anyone's wondering what Rachel is talking about, in the shop, I created planner sheets or journaling sheets, things that you could use to create kind of like a book of shadows things, but we did them for a witchy path, for celebrating the moons and the Sabbats and all the self-care stuff that goes in all of them, and then a healing path for meditations and yoga, and then just the general self-care. So it's sheets to get you to start thinking about and doing all these things that we talk about on the channel a little bit at a time. So, ooh, the chat just went crazy. Terry says, even as our negative journaling can help us heal so much. Absolutely. Because then you look at it and go, okay, why did I write that down? I once read 10 past years of my own journals and found places where I was repeating the opinions of others, and it was a wonderful revelation to see. It is hugely enlightening to me to go back through those journals and to see the life that I have manifested, see the life that I have created for myself that I dreamed about. Manifesting and doing manifestation work and spells or things like that. And then that I've actually done the steps and created all of that for myself as well. You see all those positive things as well as the negative experiences. But those negative things that we journal really do help us to grow when we can look back on them when we're in a different headspace, when we're being in that mindful headspace, the non-judgmental of ourself headspace, to look back on stuff and go, oh, It's like a huge reality check. Um, Locally cultivated says, I'm pretty good at hearing and embracing my inner self bully. Absolutely embrace it. I find it tough when I hear others pick on themselves. It's usually so subtle and passive that one could easily dismiss it, such destructive patterns. Um, and Terry's saying um, that I would let go of those things because they just never were mine. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, those patterns they're really subtle. And we have all these beliefs that we pick up. And how do we not pick up those beliefs from other people? That is setting up healthy boundaries. And sometimes that means that we don't interact with or limit our interactions with certain people or certain energies or thoughts or the news. That you don't watch the news on a daily basis, or you limit you set up a healthy boundary for yourself about how much of the news are you going to watch, so that you're not totally oblivious to what is going on in the world around us. um, but that you're not getting sucked into it and absorbed into it and getting whatever that mindset is, that whatever news channels you prefer to watch is trying to force on you, trying to change your mind about things by repeatedly watching things like that. Um, and but those subtle things, locally cultivated, are 100% correct. Those sometimes it's really subtle that you just say, "Well, I'm just bad at that," and you don't even realize you're saying, "I can't do that," or "I'm bad at that," or "That's something I don't like that. I can't deal with that." A lot of those times, those things that you don't want to deal with, those things that you don't want to look at, are actually the things that you need to look at. You have to remember that when you're looking out at other people, and we're trained um, in society to other people, to other things, instead of to recognize that we are all one, and that we're all connected, and we're all the same. Different experiences, different expressions of the same, but that we're all interconnected. um, and we should love ourselves just as much as we love others. And when we have this tendency to other people, it's because it's something that a lot of times you don't want to look at in yourself. Something that, um, when you really dislike something in someone else, that's a point of reflection to look and say, okay, well, why do I not like that? Why, what inside of me is so triggered by that? It's another, mirror reflection to help ourselves move forward and heal. I think it's really important to use those points to help us. So, as um, spiritual people, we talk about setting up wards and setting up shields and protecting our homes and all that kind of stuff. And those are like the biggest products in the shop. Those are the most watched videos on this YouTube channel. And um, I carry the products for those sorts of things because, yes, we don't want other people's energies or other negative things coming into our space. And I think it's really important to protect yourself in that sort of way, to protect your space so that you can create a sanctuary for yourself, to be able to understand how energy works, to be able to understand and work with those tools to protect your energy. But just as vital is to work on that inside energy. Um, Something that was taught to me years and years ago is, a lot of us use mirror shields. We, part of our filters or our energies around ourselves to protect our personal energy is to put up a mirror that reflects other people's energies back to them, and that only love can pass through, or something, however people set their intentions for those. um, and that anything that's negative will bounce off, or anything that's negative will get sent back to the sender, that type of energy that a lot of people use. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that when you use a mirror shield, that mirror shield is both ways. So they're like, my words aren't working. There's all this crap coming at me. My shield's not working. My protections aren't working. And what it really means is that they have this shield up, and they have it up so strong that no, other people's negativity is not coming in, but you're now so afraid and so fearful of all of the stuff that's inside of you, because nothing outside is getting in. You're reflecting out your fears and your anxieties, and they're bouncing back at you from the mirror that faces you, because those shields have mirrors on both sides. Um, so when you put up a word like that, you have to be prepared to do your inner work. You have to be prepared to do your shadow work. And people don't realize that that's what that does. And so when you put up a mirror shield to keep out negativity and bounce negativity back to where it is coming from, you are also bouncing your own negativity, your own judgments, your own fears and anxieties back onto yourself. So it's not that your shield's not working, it actually is working. It's that you're not doing your work to recognize where all that crap is coming from. And that is a huge wake up call, and it can hurt, and it can be devastating to people. Um, because you don't want to, it can't be me, it has to be everyone else, and it's that push to really get that shadow work done, to really look inside, and to realize where things are coming from, I guess is my point. um, Locally cultivated is saying, it's tough to hear people pick on themselves because they're usually people that I care about. But additionally, that negative talk is contagious. Yes, it is contagious, because then you start to pick back up those things yourself if you don't have good sense of being mindful of where you're at. Um, Terry is saying, after I read those journals one last time, I actually gave them back to the earth. I tossed them because I really felt recovered from all those patterns and feelings. And that can be huge too. I've kept most of mine. There are a few um, that I burned in a spiritual way to release, as part of me releasing that toxicity of things. There are some things that I have done with that. Um, Locally cultivated likes the advice. Sadia is here. Hey, Sadia. She's just chapping in. She wasn't home. Make sure that you watch all the stuff from the beginning, Sadia, too. Um, and locally cultivated, I think, just realized what I meant by the double-sided mirror shield, because she's saying, oh, snap. The mirror filter reflects back to the shadow self that you ought to work on. Oh, yeah. And it can be tough sometimes to deal with that stuff. Sadia is saying negative self talk and self doubt is a mighty challenge to overcome. It really is. And it takes a long time. I mean, I've been working on that crap for 30 years and I'm still dealing with it. So, you guys don't feel bad. But it's about the process, it's about the learning experience. And like I said, it's layers at a time. And you could be imposing new things on yourself by new situations that happen too. It's not always just childhood stuff. It's not always things that happened a long time ago. Things could happen right now, and you're putting new layers in there if you're not coming from that mindful, non self judgmental position of where things happen. Um, And Sadia, locally cultivated, is totally agreeing with you and saying it is a lifelong practice. Absolutely. Um, I couldn't agree with that more. It it really is. I will say that once you deal with some of the bigger aspects, it becomes an easier process. It's still hard. It's still difficult. But it's not as hard. And reflecting back um, on, like I'm saying, the layers of the onion skins, where the same situation keeps coming up, and you're like, "What the? I thought I dealt with this." I didn't really swear there, almost. Um, and you're like, "I dealt with this crap. I've got it. I'm done." And then it comes back smacking you upside the head like a 2x4, a year later, and you're like, "What the hell?" Um, but when it comes back, you recognize it so much faster. You can see it for what it is. It's not quite as traumatic. Um, and it helps you to see another slight aspect of yourself that was created because of that. Because it takes time to deal with those big traumas. It takes time. And especially with the repetitive things. So, like the stuff that you are continuously ingrained in you by society, by those teachers and things that Terry was mentioning. Um, it took years and years and years to get to that point, and it's going to take years for it to heal itself. And that's okay. Just love yourself, have compassion for yourself. We talk about sending compassion and love out into the world, but it is so vital to have compassion and love for yourself. Um, I think that that's where inner child work can be really important, to basically your become the mother or the caretaker or the father, whatever aspect that would be, but to become your own caretaker. So as you experience in your reflections and in your memories, doing the inner child work is done through usually guided meditation. Um, and you're kind of regressed to that age to see the situation that comes up and to experience it, and then to, as your adult self, to fix and remedy that situation in the moment, and to help yourself to heal that situation so that the child or the younger you feels that higher self helping in the situation and knows that they're not alone, and to help them to not be as hurt. And it's a repetitive thing, and it helps us to, I don't know, when you talk about time as time and illusion, it helps us to feel better in the now and to experience things in the now, but it doesn't take away the experience completely, but it helps to heal it, because you wouldn't be the person you are today if you did not experience whatever traumas and catalysts and things that you did experience in your younger years. And that's important to remember too. That is really huge to remember, that you would not be who you are if those things did not happen in your life. So you don't want them to unhappen. You want to do whatever you can to heal them and grow from them so that you grow as a person. And I think that that's the best way to, or one of the healthiest ways to grow from those situations that have come up. Terry's saying, I chose earth rather than fire for those particular journals, visualizing healing that they gave me, turning into compost and new soil to grow into new things. That is awesome. Fire is good for release. I've burned journals too, but somehow these journals wanted to be in the earth, and listening to my own magic brings self trust. Absolutely. There's many ways to do the healing, and listening to your gut is the best way to do it. So don't always take, what I may say is a good suggestion for a way to deal with something. It has to feel right and good to you. Those are the only things that I want you to hear, because there are so many ways to solve every problem that we come across, and so many ways to experience and do things. And that is what I think is wonderful about the pagan path, and wonderful about being able to live in a natural way and to do things that feel right to you is the best way always to do those. So I definitely agree with that, Terry. Locally Cultivated says there's a lot of neuroscience connected to negative self-talk. You could feel healed or healthy in one's day-to-day practice, but it all takes it as if it's a moment. I'm totally messing that up. There is a lot of neuroscience connected to negative self-talk. You could feel healed or healthy in one's day-to-day practice, but all it takes is a momentary trigger to the old circuitry. Yes. And that's what I meant when those triggers and catalysts come up, to be able to pull yourself back to that mindfulness. And Locally Cultivated likes the fact that you buried your journal. She said that's beautiful, Terry. Sadia is saying, yes, inner child work is also, however, a mighty challenge. It is a challenge. The understanding of the inner child is so different from the crone self. Yes, I can totally agree with that, Sadia. Um, Rachel saying, wow, this group is in tip top form today. You guys are really plugged in, and I am loving it. Me too. I'm totally loving it. Um, Locally Cultivated says, I've been open to myself as a little old lady's visiting my present self with messages and encouragement and validation, similar to my present self healing of my inner child. That is awesome. Um, a lot of the people that have been doing the shamanic journey study group with me recently have been wondering about guides. They're talking about, their guides or people who are in their groves, and their sacred grove, the inner grove that we go to, from which we do all the journey work, and that there are guides in their groves, and they're trying to figure out who they are. And multiple of them have come to the conclusion that it is their highest self, that is actually their guide, that is there to help them to grow. And some of them are old ladies or old men, and it's like themselves in the future, their highest self in the future, coming back to give them advice now, type of thing, to help them along their path. So I totally love that. Locally Cultivated, it fits right in with all the energy that's been going on. Sadia says, weaving cords of each energy and wrapping in them as I candle or labyrinth rock has helped me to do this work. So you're weaving cords into the energies and wrapping them in when you do your candle work. That is awesome. That sounds really cool, especially during the labyrinth walk, because it's like you can be walking deeper and deeper inside yourself as you do the labyrinth walk. And you can be really healing as to where you would go. Terry's saying, the first inner child work I did was surprising to me. I went back to my very early childhood and found a happy, curious, delightful person. Others in the group remembered sad and hard times, whereas I found myself embracing the wonderful that was me, even as I understood the adults around me were struggling with both themselves and with me. It was a very healing realization. That is an awesome one. I wish that had been my first. It was not my first. But I have seen those, and those were awesome and enlightening and helped me to embrace that true nature of who I really was. It's kind of like you see those the memes. Let's see if I can come up with one that doesn't have a swear in it. Um, the one that's first coming to mind is the one with the swear in it. That you have to unlearn all of the things that you have been taught your whole entire life. So it's not learning to be who I really am. It's being able to unlearn all of the things that have been imposed on you to get back to your true nature. So I'm glad that that was one of your first things that you were ever shown in your inner child work. That would be huge. Um, Saudi is saying where journaling works for so many healing, walking, and rooting exercises work for me. Yeah. And I think that that's how you get into that meditative state. And it's really amazing the work that we can do while moving, and to not get stuck in that meditation has to be a sitting still thing. Meditation does not have to be I'm clearing my mind of everything and sitting here in silence. Meditation could be working in the garden. I mean, working in the garden, it's healing from the soil and from all the stuff that's there, and to help to connect to the plants and the soil and the earth. And but if you can get into this meditative state when you're working in the garden, it is amazing how much clarity can come to you. I mean, think about in the times, that you see, if you think about uh the books on Avalon and stuff like that, and about that time, and they would all, they would sit in front of the fireplace knitting or crocheting or um spindle dropping, and just that repetitive action of just sitting there in silence, and how much work can get done in something like that is amazing. um, and you don't even have to be working with each other, even if other people are there. If you're just, sitting and doing what needs to be done and being in that moment and letting yourself go into trance state with something that is repetitive. I think it's huge. So I can totally see why walking the labyrinth can be huge for you there, Sadia. Terry's saying, I found myself embracing the wonderful that was me. Yes. Even as I understood that the adults around you were struggling with themselves and with me. I did read that part before because I knew they were connected together. It was long. And Terry is also loving what you said, locally cultivated. So. Sadia says, Terry, your inner child work experience is beautiful. And Terry replied, ha, I know the sentences to which you're referring to. Yeah, my not using the swear sentence for the meme. Yeah, that. We'll post it, though. I'll post it in the Transformational Healing group just for you guys. We must indeed undo our own misunderstandings of self first before we can truly move forward for ourselves. Absolutely. Erin is here. Hey, girl. Been a long time. And she's saying that active meditation has always helped me more, especially if I don't realize I'm meditating first. Yes. That to be able to enter into trance state and not in a safe place, not that accidental trance that happens when we're driving, like let's not, go there. But to not even realize that you're entering into trance state because you're just in the moment. And that's what mindfulness really is. You're really experiencing everything so fully that you can even get to the point of entering trance state and it is really, really healing. That is absolutely true, Erin. Um, Terry says, I find house cleaning and cooking meditative too. Me too. Absolutely. Those were such anxiety filled chores when I was a kid, and it feels so wonderful to turn those activities on their heads as an adult and to bliss out. Um, and find the gratitude in my own life. To me, it's a rebellious to find healing through simple activities like that after being raised in chaos. Absolutely agree with that. And Sadia agrees that active meditation is what works there for her too. I think that it works for a lot of us, that active meditation. I mean, I do a lot of the shamanic healing work and shamanic drumming work. Um, and when you do it after a longer period of time, I can very easily rattle for myself to journey. And that is kind of a little bit of the active. It's not the full walking active, but it's a little bit of that active. But I really have been enjoying trance dancing. So turning on music that is, drums and didgeridoos, or something that is just really, there's a lot of great music out there that I've been finding on YouTube channels actually. And either being in a place where no one else is around so I can just turn it on, or putting in the earbuds and just fully just letting go and dancing, and um, information just starts to flow. If you start to be able to be in that moment, that's one of the things. So trance dance has been really big for me. I live in the city, so meditation can be with walking, but when I'm at Brushwood, definitely walking. I really like to be walking or working. Even when we're preparing for sweat lodges and stuff and chopping wood, like who could think that chopping wood could be meditative? It is extremely meditative if you just, stay in the moment and stay with what you need to do. And you're just experiencing it and you're doing it with love and mindfulness, then that was huge. But, trying to be mindful when you're cooking and filling food with intentions and love is, awesome. Um, and just being able to be grateful for being alive is huge. So if you can get into that state, even if it's only every once in a while, and don't judge yourself when you can't get into that state, because we can't do it all the time, you know. But that doesn't mean that just because we have mundane things to do, like cooking and working and um, doing whatever you need to do at your day-to-day job, doesn't mean that you can't bring that spiritualness of being mindful and doing that job with love, and doing the job that you have to do by, if you have any contact with outside people while you're doing that job, to making people smile. And if that's, how you can get through your day of, I have this job that isn't the best job that, I can have right now, but I am projecting love, because when we get back to that boundaries and protection, one of, we talked about setting up that mirror shield, and that only love can come in, and we get that negative stuff reflecting back at us, and we're like, what's going on? And we don't want to deal with our own negative stuff. My favorite shielding is just to constantly be sending out love and compassion and healing energy. It's probably the Buddhist aspect of my beliefs, that it comes through the most strongly, but it's what feels right here. So instead of setting up walls and borders and getting myself stuck in this tarot card of the tower situation where you've built up all this shit around yourself and you're going to crack and break, um, if you're just constantly sending out love and compassion and healing, if the love is constantly outpouring because you are connected and grounded and that energy is flowing through you. The love of source and earth is flowing through you, and you're sending that love out. Nothing negative can come in anyway if you're sending that positive energy out. So to me, that's, making people smile and making other people feel good about themselves and pointing things out that way is huge. And it's healing for you as well. Because you can pick up and sense on what other people are feeling, but you're not absorbing it. And so for the intuitives and the empathetic people, sending out love is an amazing way to be able to acknowledge the things that you can sense out there that are going on, and you're just sending love to them, but you're not sending it from your own personal energy, and you're not taking on other people's stuff, because you're just flowing out the love because you're connected. That's huge. You got to be connected. Terry is saying there's an exercise called dynamic meditation that KC teaches, which involves music, movement, and dancing. And finally, the stillness. For those that find active meditation more their style. Oh, that's great. So it's called dynamic meditation. So, and locally cultivated thinks that sounds like a blast. And Sadia is saying that is very helpful. So, and that Lilith Dorsey, love Lilith. She teaches wonderful meditative cooking classes. And I still use those techniques to focus positively when cooking food was definitely a constant negative growing up, and it's very self-healing. Well, think about that. As you're cooking, you're putting energy into that food, and whether that's good or bad energy, you're going to eat that food. So do you want to eat negative stuff, or do you want to eat positive stuff? And I think it makes such a huge difference. Going back to the energies of things, we talk about that we're made mostly up of water. And when you look at like Dr. Emoto's experiments that he did with water, where you just think at water, you are loved, and you think at water, I hate you, and you look at what happens to the water, the I hate you water, which by the way, don't like that word, but very much dislike, a little better. But that water was like disgusting. It was black, it was nasty, and looked horrible underneath the microscope. And the water that was, I love you, or you're loved, was like beautiful flowers of life underneath the microscope. And that's all that was the power of your thoughts. I have a full blog up on the website of transformationalhealingbydawna.com in the blog section about that, the power of your thoughts. And we talk about the water and connecting that in. And if you think about that with just water, that's just looking at water underneath a microscope after thoughts have been given to that water. Intentions, we talk about intention here all the time. So if you're putting those intentions or those thoughts into your food or into the things you're eating or drinking that you're creating, and then you're consuming that energy. So do you want to consume water that is beautiful and filled with beautiful looking energy and flower of life symbols, or do you want to be consuming water that looks horrible? And it was the same water from the same source. It's not like that water is, contaminated or something. It looks the same. When you just look at the bottles, it looks the same, but under a microscope, it looks completely different. We are mostly water. So just something to think about. Terry's saying, yes, I didn't even realize the negativity that was in the food that my mother used to make with, and I had to feed you, as if that was optional when we were kids. I love cooking with joy. Absolutely. And I think she's right in the second part to that, because there's an and there at the end of that. But so I'm hoping that, this has helped you to just think about those boundaries and think about the self-care and think about the healing work that we can do. And if you're catching this towards the end, there was so much awesome stuff that we talked about in the beginning. I mean, you can skip the first few first minute or so if you want for the intro, but so much awesome information. So the last part of Terry's thought was, filled with joy. She loves cooking, filled with joy and intention. Another way I feel rebellious while healing from that past nonsense. Sadia is saying she's going to rewatch the beginning because she got here late. So if you guys made it through all of this, I can't believe we've been live for an hour today. That's so awesome. So if you're watching this on the replay, be sure to add your comments into the actual comment section of the video as you rewatch the beginning, or if you're watching the whole thing. And like and subscribe to the channel. And if you are not already on the email list, you should definitely do that as well. And you can find that by going to transformationalhealing.com/tribe. And the sale on those vintage items that I was talking about. So we try to do a new launch every Friday. And I put those items up and then put them on a discount for the very first, so when they first go up, they're on a discount and then they'll go to regular price. So usually we launch every Friday and the discount goes until Sunday. But this week, so it'll end tonight. The 19th. This week was a whole bunch of vintage altar decor items. And next week is going to be a bunch more crystals. And then we have some shamanic books coming up for the week after that. So, Locally Cultivated said, gosh, no wonder there's so many issues with our digestive tracts. I just cut her off. Absolutely. Think about the food that you're consuming and love your food and love the fact that you're eating in a healthy way and love everything that you're putting into your body and that you're nourishing yourself with, and have positive thoughts about that. Sadia is saying, no kidding. Locally Cultivated says, we love you, Dee. I love all of you. I miss all of you. I know you guys are all so far away. I think we have North Carolina, the other side of New York, Ohio, maybe Cape Cod, and Indiana, or at least the ones that have been chit-chatting today. So Terry says, I love you so much, Dawna. I love these Sunday segments with you, and they are a brightening part of my day. So I'm absolutely loving to do them. They make me sit back and reflect and truly connect to where you guys are at so that I can create more awesome stuff for you. So we'll see what I come up with a Tuesday video. I actually don't have one planned, so I'm sure that something of what we talked about today, I might go a little more in depth with talking about with boundaries. So we'll see. Or maybe I'll just choose one of the spiritual things that we haven't covered yet to add to that video as well. So love to all of you guys as I catch my hair on my glasses, and I will see you all soon. So make sure that you pop in some comments. I will get back to those comments that are left on the actual video if you do that. And make sure that you check out the videos over here if you're looking for more protection stuff. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.